If you want to go to an ATM this week and take out money, put it on ETN. Travis Etienne, Ryan, is the first on your list of Sunday props.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the over on Etienne's receiving yards. It's available at 22 and a half yards against the 49ers. This is a pretty low number for him. He's cleared this number in 6 of 8 games. I suppose it's low because of the 49ers have a good defense, but he doesn't need a huge volume to hit this number because of how explosive he is. And he's had 3 or more receptions in all but 1 game. And that's why he's clearing this number so easily, because he's not one of these just purely check down receivers that you're just, dumping off to the last second. He's really he doesn't see a huge volume, but when he gets the ball, it's intentional. They're looking for explosive plays out of him. So, 37% of his catches this year have produced 10 or more yards. He's had a 15-yard reception or longer in half of his games this year. So he's making big plays. And with the line only at 22 and a half yards, that could be 2 receptions easily from him with the rate that he's churning out big plays. And even against a good defense, that's very doable for him. So, just one last factor in this is with the Jaguars as underdogs in this game. If the 49ers do get out to a lead at some point, if the second half they're throwing more, we could certainly have, game flow go in our direction here to increase their passing opportunities. I just think that's a lot of factors all trending in the same way. So taking the over on Etienne's receiving yards is one of my favorite props this week.
His coach is the Pits. He's played at times like the Pits. His name is the Pits, but you like his receiving, his receptions over this week, Kyle Pitts. Do you think it has something to do with Arthur Smith shaving the mustache? Is that part of the equation here? Let us know, Ryan.
You're really getting into midseason form with these bad puns, aren't you?
I did not get as much of a nap as I had hoped, and it is showing.
All right. Well, Kyle Pitts, longest reception over is one of my props this week. Have not seen a line posted for this. I'll take the over at 19 and a half yards or lower. It's typically been lower than that this season, so it'll likely be a playable prop for us. Mostly based on Arizona's defense. We played Amari Cooper's longest reception over against them last week and won very easily. He had a couple of huge plays down the field. The reason behind it is they just cannot defend downfield. On throws 15 or more yards downfield, Arizona is allowing a 64% completion rate. That is dead last. Average is 43%. So they're 21 percentage points worse than average. Just stunning how bad they've been. Now, obviously, this isn't a great passing offense, but when you're that bad, when you're that far below average, pretty much anybody is capable of beating you down the field. And, I'm going with Pitts for this prop rather than some of the other receivers because he is their most targeted receiver downfield. 29% of Atlanta's throws of 15 or more yards have been targeted at Pitt. It's not a huge share, not the same share that we had with Cooper last week, but he is their most targeted receiver. And I think that there might actually be a little bit of added value here with Taylor Heinicke starting again, because I think we talked about this on the podcast last week a little bit, how aggressive he is throwing downfield relative to Desmond Ridder. He isn't great at throwing downfield, but he's fearless at throwing downfield. And so on a longest reception prop, we don't need to be good. We just need one of these, we just need one completion, right? So the fact that he's throwing downfield so often, I think that bodes well for us. Last week, 32% of Heinicke's throws were 15 or more yards downfield. Ridder has never hit that in his, what I guess like 3/4 of a season in total of starting for the Falcons. And Ritter's season average was just 19%. So not even close to what we've seen from Heinicke. So Heinicke might be terrible, but like I said, we only need one play on this prop. And so the rate that he's throwing downfield, I think Pitts gets a few opportunities to hit this. And I feel pretty good about getting it based on Arizona's defense being so poor.
I think it's a very interesting one. Our next guy, 2 weeks ago, he went nuclear. Last week, he did not go nuclear. But this week, you think DeAndre Hopkins is very likely to hit over on his longest reception. And I think with Will Levis and a better matchup than he had last week, this is, I think, my favorite of the ones even though it's not the play has more ceiling than floor. But I really like this one, Ryan.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. This is definitely my favorite prop of the week. I think unless we see a drastically different performance from the Titans offense this week, this is probably a prop that we're going to revisit a few times over the next couple of weeks, at least until defenses adjust to what the Titans offense looks like with Levis. He's just so much more aggressive and throwing the ball downfield at such a high rate that this is a fairly obvious prop, I would think. His longest reception is available at 23 and a half yards. And just the rate at which Levis is throwing downfield, we're in great shape here. 34% of his attempts have been 15 or more yards downfield. Basically, 1 out of every 3 attempts, he's chucking it downfield. And that's 10 percentage points more than any other quarterback this season. So he's just on another planet in terms of how he's attacking defenses. I'm sure some of it is him going rogue a little bit because I don't think you would design this. You would ask your rookie to step in his first or second start and throw down a field at such a high rate. So maybe they try to get him to dial it back a bit, something we'll have to monitor over these next couple of weeks, but clearly he's comfortable doing it. So I think at least at this point, we got to continue to bet on it continuing to happen. And, obviously Hopkins is going to be the most targeted guy. He's seen 8 targets at 15 or more yards downfield from Levis. That's 4 per game in his 2 starts. He's only averaging 2.5 downfield targets from Tannehill. So he's seen a nice jump. With him getting this many opportunities against a bad Bucs defense, the odds of him coming down with one of those catches and picking up a couple of yards after the catch to hit the over here seems like it's fairly likely. And like I said, this is a really bad Bucs secondary. They're allowing 20 or more yards on 10% of pass plays. That's the second worst rate in the league. So we've got a really aggressive quarterback going up against a bad defense that's giving up a lot of big plays. This is a great pairing. I also want to mention, although I'm not officially going to recommend it, I think you could absolutely justify playing the longest reception over for Nick Westbrook-Akine also. That number is available at only 15 and a half yards. And it's a little risky because he doesn't play a huge role in the offense. In fact, he only has 1 catch in each of Levis's 2 starts, but both of those catches were over 20 yards. So he's hit the over on his longest reception each of the last 2 weeks. In fact, Hopkins, Westbrook-Akine, and Treylon Burks combined, their longest reception over is 5-1 in Levis's 2 starts. Now, Burks is dealing with a concussion, so there's no line available for him. But, maybe you want to monitor that over the next couple of days. If Burks is out, that would probably increase our confidence in Westbrook-Akine because it would mean potentially more targets for him. And obviously, he's going to get downfield opportunities as well. So if we think an increased workload for him, that if there's no Burks, that could emerge as a really strong play as well.